Let's get into the title fights now. Top 3 fights we got. Bantamweight division, we got the OG from Russia, Petr Yan, going up against Aljamain Sterling. This fight, easily the most closely contested fight on the card. We're seeing a lot of Aljo money come in as well, too, to make this fight pretty much a pick'em. He opened up around that plus 120 line, but Aljo money is rolling in. I'm just going to say pick'em, minus 110 on each side. Now, going into this, I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to pick Petr Yan to win this fight. Once you run the tape, you start to step back a little bit, right? You see points in time Petr Yan is a little bit too not gun shy per se, but a little bit too patient, and he gives away minutes at times, right? And I think that's very difficult to do against a guy like Aljamain Sterling, who's quite active, stays on his bicycle, not the greatest with his hands, but decent enough kicks to stay active enough, keep moving, just as he did in most of his fights leading up to this fight against Petr Yan. But then you see so let's just take the Jimmy Rivera fight, for example, for Petr Yan, losing the first and second rounds up until the point he drops him at the end of both of those fights, or both of those rounds with 10 seconds left. That's the only thing that steals him back those rounds. And then I believe he did drop that third round as well too. And that's all coming down to patience and just over-analyzing a little bit too much and waiting for his spots. Now, when he opens up, the guy is an absolute monster, right? That Muay Thai is second to none in this division. He's a master when it comes to throwing those combinations together, but he just waits a little bit too much for my liking. Even the Jose Aldo fight drops that second round because he's just waiting a little bit too much. With Aljamain Sterling, you can't be waiting. Before you know it, you're 3 rounds deep, and this guy's already up 3 rounds because he's just more active than you. Now, I think that most people, if they want to break this fight down strictly from a striker versus grappler realm, they're in for a rude awakening. Both guys have great success on the opposite sides of their considered martial art, right? Aljamain Sterling, solid striker, like I'm saying, breaking it down by saying he's active, he throws volume, he keeps moving. And then Petr Yan, you watch those Magomedov fights, very active off of his back, throwing up submissions, arm bars, triangles. He doesn't complete any of them, but you see the fluidity in his movements, that he's actually, knowledgeable, and he's not just this Muay Thai killer that goes out there and tries to take these guys' heads off. And that's another misconception I think a lot of people have, is that he's this one-punch knockout power guy. He's not that guy. He's more of an accumulative striker that just wears on you, and then eventually takes you out. Whereas Aljamain Sterling, his only knockout loss was that crazy knee by Marlon Moraes. But since then, it seems like his chin has been pretty good. Ate some decent bombs from Jimmy Rivera, ate some decent bombs from Pedro Munoz. Obviously, Petr Yan, who knows how his power racks up to those guys. But I think the activity and the volume is going to be the difference maker here. And I think that if Aljo's cardio doesn't completely fall off a cliff later in this fight, I think he should be able to rack up at least 3 rounds here. Even if he's not successful with his grappling, I think he could absolutely make it a dog fight by just staying more active. Now, the one caveat I'm going to throw in here, and I'll wrap it up after this, is Petr Yan, majority of this camp spent down at ATT. Now, I expect him to have his regular coaches in his corner, but the one thing that we've been seeing from ATT as of late is the calf kicks, right? Most notably, Thiago Moises last weekend and Pedro Munoz last weekend. Now, is that something that Petr Yan is going to implement into his game? He's more of just a kicker, just a regular kicker. Doesn't target the calf as much as these other guys, but maybe spending that time at ATT reminds him, like, okay, this guy likes to move a lot. Let's try to debilitate him. Let's try to immobilize him. Let's go after that calf and try to slow him down so I can get the rest of my game going. If he comes out with that game plan, then yeah, I'd be ripping up my Aljamain Sterling ticket and knowing that it's a matter of time before Petr Yan tracks him down and absolutely puts an ass whooping on him here. But I like pre-tape. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Aljo in terms of how he can make this a difficult fight for Petr. And I'd slightly back Aljamain Sterling here, and I back him to win this fight via decision. The line that we currently have on that is Sterling to win by decision is plus 325. Now, 5 rounds is a long time to go up against a guy like Petr Yan. That guy lives for 5-round fights. The guy is an absolute monster when it comes to 5-round fights. So I'm not running to the betting window to bet against Petr Yan here. But given what I came out from on the other side of tape study, is that Aljamain could make this a much closer fight just based off of volume and movement alone. What do you think about this one?
This is a very close fight. This is probably one of the best fights in the entire card, just because it's 2 of the absolute best guys. What I mean by that is, you look at the main event. This is a fun little main event, but it's like, okay, it's the real 205 champ ain't here. You got Jan Blachowicz, who it's pretty crazy. He got the belt to begin with, taking on a middleweight, a great middleweight, but you know what I'm saying. It's not exactly the 2 best 205s in the world. You look at the co-main event. It's like, what a fucking joke this is. It is the women's GOAT. Got to give her that. She's the best all time. Taking on, like, she's a 10-1 favorite over a non-challenger who could win. It's MMA. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it's not exactly super intriguing. This, it's like, I mean, Henry's the real champ. It's like, who cares about that? This is the 2nd and 3rd best people in the world. These are two of the absolute best, and it's a closely competitive fight. You know, you look at the main event, you look at the co-main event, maybe it's competitive, maybe it's not competitive. This is nice. This is good right up the middle. I can see both guys winning. Petr Yan's got the better striking. I think that the leg kicks are going to work really well. Aljamain does have that long stance. So again, you know, work the calf kick, but also he's just got good combinations. He goes out there and he lands meaningful punches. And that's one thing you'll notice, right? Aljamain Sterling might have the volume. He'll jab from the outside. He'll kick from the outside, but his kicks are, you know, rangefinder kicks, and his jabs are rinky-dink jabs. Like, he doesn't throw anything with real power. It's almost like he just touches you. Some judges don't like that. They don't like you running. It's a perceived running. You hit the guy and then you're trying to get out of there. They don't mind, oh, Yan, sure, he got hit 3 or 4 times. He's been hit by the jabs. Oh, but look, he let his hands go. Oh, he let the leg kick. Oh, it looks like that one might have hurt a little bit. They favor that. This thing goes 5 rounds. I think Yan's going to land the more appealing shots. But Sterling's got the wrestling, man. I mean, this guy's a very good wrestler. Beyond that, he times his shots really good. So he'll have the striking from the outside. He'll have the speed. He'll have the length. But if he just mixes in those single leg takedowns, mixes in the wrestling, he could be okay. You've also seen Yan give up his back before. And I mean, Aljamain Sterling doesn't need much space to throw in that body triangle and backpack you. So he could bank these early rounds. And then in a 5-round fight, if you're now chasing a knockout at 135 pounds, like, it doesn't really materialize all that much. So I'll give Aljamain one thing, is that he's been fighting very, very, very smart lately. I mean, even you look back at the fight with Jimmy Rivera, it's like he couldn't take him down. He actually went 0 for 7 in takedowns in that fight. So it's like, okay, I need to go to plan B, which is strike with Jimmy Rivera. Tough concept. But it's like, man, just touch and move, get out of there. The Sandhagen fight, he takes him to the ground, submits him. But he's got different plans. He's very athletic. He's very fast. He's got good variables in the division. I could see him winning the fight. I'm going with Petr Yan. I think Petr Yan's going to land the better shots. And trust me, I'm a Team Yan guy all day. I think he just goes out there. But the real play, regardless of what side you're on, we'll have a full real argument on tomorrow night's show. But we're going props here. And the props here are almost all of the overs outside of the over 1.5. The over 2.5 is minus 190. That's a good price, man.
Yeah.
This thing's going the distance, and it's less than 2 to 1. The over 3.5 is minus 130. I like that. I like that a lot. I think this thing, if this is a 3-round fight, it's going the distance for sure. In a 5-round fight, it's banking rounds. The over 4.5 is minus 105. The fight goes the distance is plus 100. Yan to win by decision is plus 260. These are all very good price tags. But again, when you look at 135 pounds, there's not exactly the biggest power punchers out there. It's light on those finishes. When you look at Yan specifically, he took almost 5 full rounds to take out Jose Aldo. And those shots he was landing, was like, oh man, Aldo was tired. Aldo was getting hit. But it took him almost 5 full rounds. He took 3 rounds to get, well, I mean, he got him out early in there. But even the Uriah Faber fight, like, he is beating this guy up bad. He's taking rounds. The Jimmy fight goes the distance. The John Dodson fight was competitive, went the distance. The Jinsu Sun fight, he landed over 100 significant strikes. It went the distance. There's no doubt about it. Like, he can land 100 significant strikes, not quite put you down. He's not the biggest power guy going. Aljamain's been knocked out 1 time by clearly a move he never saw coming from Marlon Moraes. Like, we'll chalk that up as a fluke. I don't think he has a chin problem. It's okay. Flip side to that, like, Aljamain could submit you. Not that Petr Yan's ever been finished, but outside of the submission, like, he's not big on finishes as well. He's more so one of these guys that controls you and wins a decision. So I got this thing going 2.5. I got this thing going 3.5. I got this thing going 4.5. I got this thing going the decision. My official pick is going to be Petr Yan. I got this thing going the distance, so I got Petr Yan by decision. And again, that's a good tag, you know, plus 260 felt pretty good. But if you don't feel confident on either side this fight goes, surely you don't think this thing's ending in the first round, right? Surely you don't think this is 5 rounds to work with. Both guys realize it's a 5-round fight, it's a championship fight. They'll take their time. And with Petr Yan, you made this a great point yourself. There's lulls. This guy's hell on wheels. This guy keeps throwing. No. There's actually lulls. Well, he'll wait a bit and figure it out. He's got high ring IQ. He's figuring out, what are you doing? How are you going to react? I'll feint and I'll see how you bite, and then I'll, make a move. Like, it's high level stuff. It's not checkers, it's chess. And you're going to hit overs in these chess matches. This is a very well competitive fight. Both guys got a plethora of skills. Both guys have an avenue to victory. But beyond that, they'll take their time and they'll try to figure out what's best for their game. And I think that's going to lead to some of these overs. So that would be, as far as prop goes, that would be, I think, the safest route to go on this fight.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I definitely think this fight goes the full 5 rounds, and banking those overs like you're talking about, I think, is a smart move here. I think that knockout from Moraes on Aljo was more of an anomaly, and I think people might be reading too far into that, and that might kill them, especially if they're going to be chasing a Yan KO prop here. Again, Yan, not a crazy one punch knockout power kind of guy. He needs to cumulatively, break you down. And I think it's going to be hard to do that against Aljo here. But again, another fight that we kind of disagree on here. I'm liking it. But